Good morning. A couple months late, but better late than never. I'm going to go through my October budget. I've been putting this off for some reason, but it was an incredibly important month for me, so I definitely want to go through it. I'm very excited. I hit a huge savings goal. And then after we go through the budget, I just want to talk about my kind of financial riskiness lately. I've gotten some comments that I've been a bit reckless or risky in the last couple of months, financially speaking, and I just want to talk about that a bit more. But first, let's go through the budget. Starting at the top with the most exciting part, my income. My W-2 income is generally my largest income, and I knew it would be big for October. And that is because I was on a 22-day offshore research trip for the government. I'm normally a fisheries observer and I work on commercial fishing vessels, but in October, the government reached out to my company and asked if they could supply a couple observers because they didn't have enough scientists to fill all of the positions for one of the legs of their fall research survey. So they asked me to go. So I didn't get my normal sea day rate. I'm normally paid $300 per sea day, which has gone up now. I've gotten a raise recently. But for this specific project, I made $250 per sea day. That's because it's not my normal job, not what I normally do. It was a long trip with really amazing accommodations compared to what I'm normally used to on fishing vessels. So yeah, 22 days of the month I was offshore, and that certainly contributed to my W-2 income. I had a goal of $4,125, and I was just calculating $250 times 22 days, $5,500-ish dollars minus taxes. But what I didn't know was that we also were paid overtime. So my actual take-home pay was $5,664, which is amazing. My rental income, if you're here and you've been paying attention, you know that was $0, and forever going forward will be $0. And I cannot wait to completely remove that line item from my budget now, I guess. I'll never have a tenant again, and I'm so excited. I cannot wait to get rid of that property. YouTube income, I had a goal of $100. I made $235.23. And now this is in October. It was the payout from September, so technically I made that in September, but it was paid out in October. I have a $0 expectation of any support, but Carol, thank you so much. She is just so kind, so sweet. She sent me $125 through Venmo. Thank you so much, Carol. And then my high yield savings account interest that my emergency fund is sitting in, it's sitting in a SoFi account. I think in October it had 4.3 APY. I can't remember. It's gone down a little bit since, but I gained $130.38. And then other, I had a goal of 400 of just like side work, other things. Wasn't too big on that goal since I knew the W-2 income was going to be the star of the show, but I did make $98.61 delivering with Instacart. A grand total income of $6,253, which is amazing. Now let's go down to the expenses. For rent, I pay $500 a month here at my aunt's beautiful home. She's amazing. Health and dental insurance, I paid $42.22 a month, and that is through my state marketplace based on my income. Electricity and gas and internet are bills that I don't need to worry about while I am here at my aunt's house because, like I said, she's amazing. And then Mohila is my student loan servicer, all federal student loans, all with Mohila. They were on administrative forbearance with a $0 payment. They've been that way for a bit now. Payments are coming back. Now my account's saying they're coming back in March. So, things are still changing over there, but they are coming back soon. And then gym, I pay $67 a month to go to the Y because that is the only gym around. So that's definitely a very expensive gym for me and not normal. And I won't do that when I'm back out on my own. But for right now, it's what I got. And then Netflix is $22.99 a month. And those are my 4 fixed expenses at the moment. Now, food and household, I budgeted $250. I just pretty much budget that every single freaking month. I kind of was thinking it would be lower since I was not on land for 22 of those days and therefore not spending a single penny. I was getting food cooked for me, but when I got back, I went out to eat and had to like replenish my food stores and whatnot. So I actually ended up spending $318.82 on food, which I'm totally fine with because I definitely celebrated a bit when I got back on land. That trip was way too long for me, but it was fine. And then gas and car wash, I budgeted 100, spent 66.17, since obviously if I was offshore, I was not driving very much either, which is lovely. Pet supplies, I budgeted 65. I actually spent $94 on pet supplies. Oh my gosh, I forgot to factor in the vet appointment. I messed that way up. We'll fix that later. For investing, I had a goal of 100. I didn't actually invest anything. I don't know why. And when I say invest, I am speaking above and beyond a 401k. I always contribute to a 401k from my paychecks. So I did invest in October, 5%. October was a pretty good investment month, and then my company matched that 5%. So this, I'm speaking of just strictly above and beyond my 401k. I did not do anything. And I also didn't make a donation in October, which is crappy. I was focused on the next category, which is my savings. I had a goal of saving $2,000. Then I got back, saw that my cat had a situation and she needed to go to the vet, and turns out she had bladder stones, and I think it was like $480 on the vet. So I didn't think I was going to save as much, but then that second paycheck came in. And I was able to save the full $2,000, which is so cool. Because, again, I wasn't expecting the overtime, but that got lumped at the end of the trip. So the second paycheck from that trip. So I didn't know it, until almost November when I finally got my second paycheck. And then spending, I got a $0 goal. I spent $272.27, and that's just on various things that I wanted when I got back. And then other $0 goal, but I ended up spending $390.86 for my cell phone to renew. So for my cell phone, I have Mint Mobile. I pay it annually, so that $390.86 is for an entire year of unlimited everything. Data, messaging, whatever. Roughly, $15 a month plus tax. I do not understand why anyone ever pays more than that for a cell phone these days. There are so many cheap comparable plans with unlimited everything. I just can't fathom why anyone would pay a high monthly payment, but that's just me. But yeah, so that renewed in October, and instead of pulling the money from my annual expenses sinking fund, I just paid for it out of pocket since I had a high income month. And also, I guess in this other category is probably where I should put the vet visit. So again, I'll fix that in a second. Now let's go down to savings. I ended October. At that point, my emergency fund was already full, but it ended with $36,282 in there from account high yield interest growth. And my annual expenses sinking fund was also full, $2,014, and the car, vet, and medical sinking fund was at $2,001 because I was like freshly full in October. I finished that one off in October. But then the fund ended at $1,600. That car, vet, and medical needed $400, and the fund I then gave $1,600 to make up that $2,000 in savings. So there, now that we've finished that out, I'm just going to change this value to $790. Because the vet appointment, we'll just say it was $400. I think it was $480. Doesn't really matter. But a total spending for the month, of course, some of that is savings, but $4,174, which is wonderful. That's comfortably below my income of $6,253. That long trip, I took that strategically, knowing that income was going to help float me through the winter when my W-2 work is slower than it normally is. So I didn't put it all in savings. I've left some just hanging out in my checking account to cover me through right now, because now it's December 13th, and so far I've only had one sea day, and I knew that. I knew that was going to be like that. I'm okay with it. I don't necessarily want to be offshore much in the winter. It's junky out there, and I get seasick all the time, which, it's part of the job. It's par for the course. I knew work would be low. I took this trip strategically to get me through the winter. I do not want to go offshore for that long. I don't like it. I feel very trapped and disoriented when I'm stuck on a vessel in the middle of the ocean for that long. And also, leaving my cats for that long is shitty. That feels very shitty to me. And obviously I came back to Piper being so stressed out that she had bladder stones, which had probably honestly developed prior to that with all of the moving and whatnot. But obviously it was, very much exacerbated by me not being around. And that's not okay with me. Overall, though, this October was amazing. I made way more than I expected. I hit my savings goal. I've got extra for the winter. I'm a happy girl. Now that the October spreadsheet's over, I want to talk about my financial riskiness of recent months. So November, December. I have gotten some comments lately that people may find it's not the best idea to be focusing on side work and gig work as opposed to W-2 work. I do totally understand that. I really do. But honestly, there's an aspect of this that I'm kind of trialing existing on such a low income. The amount of freedom that I have has been exponentially valuable. I'm not quite sure how to say all this, obviously. I'm struggling to get into words exactly how I feel about all of my life situation, because honestly I feel like it does open up so much judgment, which is totally fine. I obviously welcome all thoughts, opinions, whatever, even if it's not in the same opinion as mine or whatever. I'm here for the feedback. It's all good. But I'm doing this almost as an experiment to see if I can survive on such a low income, because the amount of freedom and happiness that I have in the last few months, once all of the panic of moving to Gloucester and, oh shit, I can't afford Gloucester, and then moving here, and once all that panic and fear subsided, and obviously there's a huge comfort level to being at my aunt's house and not having the overhead of property ownership and bills in my name and things like that. Certainly. But I am trying to just see if I'm able to continue this lifestyle that I have that is now exponentially more happy than it's ever been in my life. And that's just because I'm realizing I'm not a 9-to-5 person. I'm not a cubicle person. The thought of working under fluorescent lighting and going back to a cubicle and emails and phone calls and oh my God, I don't want to. I don't want to. So I want to stick with my job. I want to make this job work and work a bit more in the summer when it's nicer and save up and carry myself through the winter when it's shitty out there. I don't want to be out there. I would rather set my lifestyle up in that way and work more when it's nicer out. And so, similar to this big trip in October, I knew working that was going to provide me income to float me through the winter. And so now I have that excess amount in my checking account to draw from whenever I need it. And as far as the riskiness, if some big financial disaster were to happen and suddenly my sinking funds and emergency fund got drained or were starting to drain, which I'm I will try my best to physically never allow to happen because I have such an aversion to spending money that I have saved. But if it happens, if something disastrous happens, I always have the option to pick up more work. there's always going to be more of these longer side projects, and as well as other things like protected species observing. I went to a work conference in November for a couple days, and it was very eye-opening to see all of these other projects that my company has going on that I had no idea about. That's just because we're all remote and we don't ever get together except for annual work conferences when people can really like come together and learn more about what the company and what they're doing. And it was awesome. They have a huge component of protected species observing that I didn't even know about. And so my last job, if you guys were here last January, in 2023, when I was doing environmental consulting, and they trained me to be a protected species observer because they were getting me ready to be a PSO on these large offshore wind projects. So I have the training already. So I've sent my training information to my current company so they have that on file. If there's ever a time when I feel like doing that kind of work instead of being a fisheries observer, or both, they very much are happy to cross-train people in both. And I have both trainings. I would just need an additional specialized safety training because you get helicoptered onto these vessels. You have to go through a safety training that simulates a helicopter going underwater. So they put you in a helicopter-like apparatus and they dip you upside down in a pool, and you have to be able to escape from that, which is so wild. That's so, woo. So I would have to do a little bit extra safety training, but the work is there if I want it. They've been very clear about that. They are very big on keeping their employees happy. If I need more sea days, totally fine. If I want longer trips, totally fine. If I want more of these side projects, totally fine. If I want to be a protected species observer, and those are like 30, 60, or 90-day contracts where I could be working that many days in a row. Totally fine. I just don't want to. But if push came to shove and some financial disaster happened and I needed more money, I have options to make more money. No problem. No questions asked. So all of that to say, I completely understand the concern of having such a small W-2 income. I don't think I'm being risky at all. I think I'm using this time that's been given to me to really tune into what I want out of my life and how I want it to look from this point going forward, I'm just not someone who ever loved the 9-to-5 grind. I don't love it at all. I hate corporate everything. I want to do my own thing. And I think it's totally okay for me to start working on carving out that kind of lifestyle and carry it forward, The biggest hurdle I think that I have, and that I think most people have, is the housing component. Clearly, living at my aunt's is such a freaking luxury, and I would be paying way more if I were in an apartment, but I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to be a renter anymore. I've been a renter for most of the last 22 years, and I'm over it. The chunk that I have saved for real estate, as well as hopefully any profit I can get from selling this damn rental property, hopefully soon, I'm going to combine those and I'm going to find a really cheap piece of land. Maybe it'll have a little house on it or a cabin or something. Maybe it won't. Whatever. It's going to be like fine-tuning that and worrying about that when the time comes. But I know I can do it. Out in the woods, away from cities, there are plenty of options that are cheap where I could buy a piece of land for cash and not have to worry about that aspect of a housing payment. And then of course there comes the structure, certainly, and the things that go with that. I have owned a home before, so I understand all of the expenses that come with home ownership, property taxes, and big ticket items when things break. I understand all of those things, so I know what I'm signing up for. But again, that's just going to be research on the front end of finding a piece of property that's in a cheaper tax location, which again should be no problem since I'm going to be targeting a cheap town out in the woods, pretty rural. It's going to be a very well-researched process, but I know in my heart that I can make it happen. And if I need to add structures and, water, sewer, electricity, those big ticket items. I'm just gonna take it one at a time and pay for things as I can and figure it out. I will figure it out. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be so fun. It's gonna be like setting up the foundation of the whole next chapter of my life, which I did not mean to go on this whole tangent with this video. I just wanted to talk about some of the comments that I've been getting about my financial riskiness. And again, I hear you, but I don't agree at all. I think everything is fine. And before I even let my emergency fund get touched, I would rather just go work more. So if anything happens, I know I got me. I know I do. It's fine. I always have. I always will. I've gotten to almost 40 years old being a single Pringle and handling my shit on my own. With the exception of right now, being at my aunt's house. I don't ever accept help from people, but my aunt is so amazing and has this big, beautiful, pretty much empty house. So yeah, October was a real big income month, a real pivotal month. But if I ever wanted to, my months could look like that more frequently. I don't want to. I know this budget review is like super late, but I did want to do it. I have no excuse for why I didn't do it, but I did want to talk about it because October was a pivotal month for me. It's very eye-opening. I learned so much. I learned that there's more options out there for me if I want them, and that brings me great comfort, great peace. And October helped me pretty much round out my sinking funds so that I could move on to my homestead fund, and I started that last month in November. So now we're just straight up saving for that dream homestead lifestyle. And that's my only focus right now. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you soon. Bye.